Grace and peace to you this day. You may be seated. As a child, if I was asked the question, what do you want? I probably would have had a pretty quick answer. It probably would have been something about the newest sports video game, or maybe a special toy or my favorite candy. But now that I'm in my 40s, I find being asked the question, what do you want, to be a little tougher to answer. I guess a bit more money would help, but I know that's not ultimately what I want. Maybe certainty about the future. But if I'm honest, that too is unreasonable and would make for a pretty boring life. What do I really want? Like the stories of discovering a genie in a bottle, or King Midas being granted anything he wanted, or even more biblical, like King Herod offering Herodias anything she wanted. It's the kind of question where the answer that first comes to your mind may not be the best, and you might do well to pause and really think it through. What do you really want? This question is at the center of the gospel story for today, and the healing of the blind Bartimaeus of Timaeus. That's kind of catchy, isn't it? Bartimaeus of Timaeus. When I say Bartimaeus, you say of Timaeus. Bartimaeus, Bartimaeus. Feel free to do it for the rest of the sermon if you want. Of course, Jesus and his band of followers are in Jericho, that famous city, famous for the walls kept tumbling down. You may know that song, where Joshua and his band of followers conquered a city and a people with marching, trumpets, and their own shouts. And as Ann told me, with lots of sevens. Bartimaeus, nice, is outside the city of Jericho offering his own shouts to get the attention of Jesus. Not having ever been to Jerusalem myself, nor knowing the geography well, I looked it up and found this short video to share with you.
Starting east of the Jordan River, let's follow the road from Jericho to Jerusalem on map 19. The road brings us through the different districts of Jericho, including the residential area and municipal Jericho. Passing through municipal Jericho, the road begins climbing up the ascent of Adumim, a ridge on the south side of the deep Wadi Kilt Canyon. Continuing through the rocky Judean wilderness, the road descends into a canyon called Nahal Haug, which acts like a moat guarding Jerusalem's eastern approach. The road climbs up another ridge, then over the Mount of Olives to Jerusalem. This cross-section diagram shows the different segments of the route that travels from Jericho to Jerusalem. This is the route that Jesus took on his last journey up to Jerusalem. Note on the lower right-hand side of the screen, Jericho sits at 800 feet or 250 meters below sea level. Jesus would have passed through the different districts of Jericho. First, the residential area, and then about 1.5 miles away was municipal Jericho, built by the Hasmoneans and Herod the Great. From municipal Jericho, the route climbs on a ridge called the Ascent of Adumim, or the Red Ascent, to a ridge crest, where Roman and Crusader period forts guarded the road. From the forts, the road descends into a canyon called Nahal Haug, and then continues up toward Jerusalem on a ridge where parts of the Roman road can still be seen today. It reaches the eastern shoulder of the Mount of Olives, and then climbs over the top of the mountain. Finally, the road descends down into the Kidron Valley before ascending into the city of Jerusalem. The straight line distance between Jerusalem and Jericho is 14 miles or 22 kilometers, but there is an elevation difference of 3,300 feet or 1,000 meters.
Interesting, I thought. This encounter with Bartimaeus of Timaeus is Jesus' last healing before he enters Jerusalem, and this sort of final climb to what will inevitably be the cross on which he'll die. And so to encounter a blind man out here in this edge place is to encounter someone in the community that would have been among the poorest of the poor. Bartimaeus shouts out to Jesus outside of those once felled walls, and this time, the walls between him and his healing will come tumbling down. What caught my attention from this story this time was exactly what Jesus asks him. What do you really want me to do for you? Some of you may not know this, but recently my office moved from the second floor to the first floor here at church. And as a result of that and my kids getting back to regular school, I am sometimes the first person here at St. John's at about 8:15 in the morning. And sometimes I have to wake someone up who slept the night on our property. And I've made it a practice to be kind, to try to wake them up without startling them and offer them coffee. You want a cup of coffee? I'll say. And sometimes that will break the ice for some more conversation then or when I bring the coffee back. And I tell you this not to make myself look good, far from it. I'm in a position of power when I ask the question, you want a cup of coffee, to someone who spent a tough night on the streets like I imagine they were last night. And asking, you want a cup of coffee may be kind, but it's also clear and limited. What struck me about the question that Jesus asks the blind Bartimaeus of Timaeus is twofold. First, he doesn't make any assumptions about what Bartimaeus of Timaeus may want, like I do when I ask about coffee and not tea or the bathroom. Jesus doesn't ask the more obvious question, which would have been, do you want me to give you your sight back? Secondly, Jesus asks a more vulnerable question, a more open-ended question that cuts deeper. What do you want me to do for you? He asks. That's not what I ask people I meet in the morning at church because I may not be willing or able to fulfill an answer to that question. But Jesus opens himself up to help Bartimaeus of Timaeus in the way that Bartimaeus truly feels most deeply he wants and needs. Jesus makes no assumptions as to the needs of this man, and he offers him the agency to name the help he wants. And that got my imagination going this week, got me wondering. And so I have two imaginative stories to share with you before I close. Here's the first one. I've often imagined this story, this scenario. It's a scenario where I get to meet Jesus. Maybe this is a pastor thing, I don't know, but it's something I've imagined. It's always in a coffee shop, don't ask me why. I figure Old Soul's a great name as any other would be to meet Jesus. Why not to meet Jesus at Old Soul? And so the conversation goes something like this. Hey, Jesus, I can't believe it's you. It's really you, isn't it? It's me, John. You know me. I am what I am. Yeah, it's just so unbelievable. I'm so glad you could meet me here. What do you want me to do for you, John? Whoa, okay. I've thought about this. That's a big question. And from you and all, man, okay, I know what I want. All my life, I'm striving to be good, to live a life modeled after yours, nothing as good, but as good as I can. So I know what I want. I want you to tell me, am I doing it right? Am I living right? What is the true meaning of life? Jesus pauses, looks at his cup of coffee, steam still swirling up from the heated beverage. He takes a long, slow sip. And says, funny thing, I was going to ask you the same question. Wish I could stay longer, John, but duty calls. gotta go. But remember this. He looks directly in my eyes. I love you. And I'm proud of you. He smiles and waves as he walks around the corner. Scene. Here's the second imaginative story to get you wondering this Sunday. I like to imagine Bartimaeus of Timaeus after this healing. We first met him on the roadside, but by the end of the story, he's traveling on the road with Jesus and the others who make their way and their climb up to Jerusalem. I've been imagining that this poor blind beggar, who before Jesus heals him is on the outskirts of the society, but after he is healed is connected back in. I like to imagine that somewhere on the road or in the city, he gets to encounter his father. You know, Timaeus, who he's named after. I imagine Bartimaeus and his father Timaeus haven't spoken in years. This can happen between a father and a son. A rift, a regret, words spoken, words unspoken. I like to imagine them meeting again, and Bartimaeus, his sight healed by Jesus, finds that that's not the only old wound that's healed. This son reaches out to his father with a smile and a hug, the kind of hug you only see at long-awaited reunions. I like to imagine Timaeus, mouth agape, at first looking his son up and down, seeing his eyes, seeing his son's eyes, seeing his eyes again. Eyes that reflect his own. And then almost beyond reason, beyond the reason of what should linger between a father and son, separated by years of pain and hurt, Timaeus says the kind of thing every one of us hopes to hear from a parent one day. I've missed you, my child. I love you. I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry. Jesus is asking you too, what do you really want me to do for you? Maybe you're like our first communicants today and know what you want. Like them, you might say, I want to receive Jesus today. Or maybe you need to take a minute to think about it. What do you really want Jesus to do for you? Amen.